There are so many of them, and they are so exuberant, the Biafrans. Even the refugees sing, especially when they have just been told their homes have been recaptured and they can go back to them. They sing when they get their daily meal. They sing when they work. They sing when they practice army marching. No guns, no shoes, but a song that goes something like, "Thank you, General Ojukwu, for giving us the medicine with which to fight our enemies instead of being murdered in our beds." A kind of spirit that has kept them going through 2 years of starvation and defeat. A spirit that arises partly out of fear. Fear expressed by Chief of Staff Philip Effian.
I am sure that if the Nigerians can control our links with the outside world, our radio links and our air links, so that we are completely cut off and they are in control of everything here, I am quite certain that they will really go to town and murder everything in sight.
A spirit and a self-confidence that has kept trucks rolling somehow, armies growing somehow, life organized somehow, in a nightmare period in which 1 out of 10, at least, of all their countrymen have died of starvation.
This is Lagos, capital of all Nigeria except Biafra. It is difficult to imagine that this is the headquarters city of a military government mobilized to fight a bitter civil war. But there is hardly a uniform in sight.
The fact is that Nigeria is not really mobilized. Only a few thousand square miles of a nation more than 100 times that big are touched by that war. There are no shortages. There is no starvation. In the vast northern stretches of Nigeria, the Muslim prayer day is consecrated as it has been for centuries. And there is not a soldier to be seen. "800 miles away at the University of Ibadan, the student body last week was preoccupied with final examinations. There is no draft in Nigeria, and almost none of the students have volunteered. Only in the war-wrecked ghost towns of the East could I see palpable evidence of a country fighting for its life, and not one Nigerian in 1,000 has seen this. In all of Lagos, the only building dressed for war is the military headquarters. And throughout the country, plaintive advertisements in government newspapers and radio stations plead with Nigeria's citizens. If you don't fight the war, they say, nobody else will. But the 35-year-old Nigerian Chief of State, General Yakubu Gowon, says there is a good reason why Nigeria does not go all out in the civil war.
We're fighting our own brothers, our own friends, our own probably colleagues that in fact we were trained together. Now, I accept them as my people. I don't call them enemies. They're not my enemies. That's why in fact we don't use the word enemy. We use the word only rebels against Ojukwu and his clique and those in fact that fight for him, but not against all the Igbos. Now, therefore, we've got to do, we must not do anything that is going to make it impossible for us to reconcile at the end, or it will make the winning of the heart difficult in the end.
Let's pause now for some of the history behind this bloody war. It is said, though no one knows for sure, that 1 of every 4 black men on the African continent is a Nigerian. There were 55 million of them before the war. Nigeria was a creation of British colonialism. At the turn of the century, Britain carved out the richest area in West Africa, lumped together 250 tribes, each with its own culture, its own history, and arbitrarily called these people Nigerians. Of those tribes, 3 were dominant: the Hausas, most numerous, Muslims in the north; medieval, lagging behind the others in education and commerce; the Yorubas in the west, animists and Christians, the first educated; and the Igbos in the east, where Christianity is now strongest.
Some say the Igbos were the most backward, but in the last quarter century, with the aid of European missionary education, the Igbo overtook the others and became the most powerful economic group of all. But the Igbo also wanted political power. He resented the strength of the Hausas and Yorubas, who, since Nigerian independence in 1960, had run the country and grown corrupt. Riding a wave of popular discontent, Igbo and other military officers in 1966 succeeded in a coup d'etat. They executed key non-Igbo politicians and several of the top non-Igbo military officers. For a while, it seemed the country applauded the coup. But once in power, this new Igbo-dominated